Gary Vee is
Gary Vee, ladies and gentlemen.
People will marry AI robots that look like humans within the century.
He'll tell you to work 18 hours a day, then say that patience is the key to success. He'll scream about being a lion, then speak softly about kindness and empathy. For over a decade, Gary Vaynerchuk has built a multi-million-dollar empire on what seems like a walking contradiction. He's the internet's most passionate hype man who also gives surprisingly sober advice. So which one is the real Gary Vee? Is he a genius who has evolved his message over time, or a master marketer who simply changes his brand to stay relevant? This is the story of the man behind the hustle, the strategy behind the hype, and the blueprint that turned a liquor store clerk into a digital icon. We'll explore the complicated truth behind the internet's ultimate motivator, from wine clerk to web pioneer. Before Gary Vee was a brand, he was Gennady Vaynerchuk, a kid who arrived in America from the Soviet Union in 1978 with his family, who had nothing. From running lemonade stands to making thousands a week trading baseball cards as a teenager, he had the hustle gene from day one. He was a master at finding things people wanted and figuring out how to sell it to them. In 1998, he took over his dad's local liquor store in New Jersey. The business was making a respectable $3 million a year, but Gary saw a much bigger future. While most of the world was still dialing up to the internet, he launched one of the first e-commerce wine sites in the country. He used then new tools like email marketing and Google Ads to turn the local shop into a national powerhouse. In just 5 years, he grew the business from $3 million to $60 million a year. Then came YouTube.
What's the name? Christine, good.
In 2006, Gary flipped on a camera and started Wine Library TV. It was raw, unscripted, and completely different from anything else. He spat wine into a football helmet and used goofy comparisons to describe expensive wines, breaking down the stuffy barriers of the wine world. He wasn't just selling wine. He was building a community of fans he called the Vayniacs. Over 1,000 episodes, he perfected a formula that would define his entire career. Find where the attention is cheap, give away value for free, build a loyal community, and then sell them something. It was the blueprint for everything that came next. The content machine. The success of Wine Library TV got the attention of big brands like Pepsi and General Electric. They wanted to know his secret. So in 2009, he and his brother AJ launched VaynerMedia, a social-first digital agency. They started in a borrowed conference room and have since grown into a global company with hundreds of employees and hundreds of millions in revenue. So how does he do it? The secret is a content model designed to create a massive amount of content at an incredible speed. It's built on a simple idea: document, don't create. Instead of trying to come up with perfect, scripted videos, his team simply follows him around and documents his life, his meetings, his phone calls, his thoughts on the fly. This long-form pillar content becomes the raw material for an avalanche of micro-content. His team slices and dices a single keynote speech or interview into dozens of shorter clips, images, and articles, each one tailored for a different platform like TikTok, LinkedIn, or Instagram. It's an industrial-scale operation for manufacturing authenticity, allowing him to be everywhere at once while still feeling personal and real. This system is the engine that powers the entire Gary Vee empire. The digital fortune teller. Gary's core business strategy is what he calls day trading attention. He's obsessed with figuring out where people's eyes and ears will go next, and he invests his time and money there before anyone else. He was an early investor in giants like Facebook, Twitter, and Uber, but his predictions about platforms have been just as valuable. He was one of the first marketers to take TikTok seriously, seeing it not just as an app for dancing teens, but as a fundamental shift in how we consume content. He predicted the TikTokification of everything, a future where what you're interested in matters more than who you follow.
I started making these videos that 99% of NFT projects were going to go to zero, which wasn't landing so well with the community, except for the small percentage of the thoughtful ones.
His most controversial prediction came with the rise of NFTs. In 2021, he launched his own multi-million-dollar NFT project called VeeFriends. While it looked like a classic hype move, He was also sounding a stark warning. He repeatedly said that 98% of NFT projects would fail and go to zero, comparing the craze to the dot-com bubble of the late 90s. It was a shockingly sober take from the world's biggest hype man, revealing a strategist who understood the boom and bust cycle of new technology better than his persona let on. The American dream. After talking so much about the internet and technology, Gary's biggest dream is actually very simple. He wants to buy the New York Jets football team. This isn't just about being rich. For him, it's the last piece of his family's story of coming to America. When he was a little boy in New Jersey, he didn't know how to speak English. The Jets were the first thing that made him feel like he was a part of America. Cheering for the Jets was how he made friends with other kids. But he had one big problem. He was too poor to buy a Jets jersey.
My parents were not gonna buy a $25 Jets t-shirt. So my mom at night knitted me a Jets sweater that I would wear with the number 5 on it because that was my favorite number. And it's always been my dream to buy this team, and in a stadium like this, to put the sweater in the front when people walk in, and I wanted to say, you can literally do anything from not being able to buy a jersey to owning the whole darn team.
His mom saw how much he wanted one, so she knitted him a green and white Jets sweater with her own hands. That sweater became the most important symbol of his whole life. He still has that sweater today. His dream is to buy the team and put the sweater in a glass case at the stadium. He wants to show everyone that it's possible to go from being a poor kid who couldn't even afford a jersey to owning the entire team. This story makes his goal of becoming a billionaire feel like something we can all understand and root for. It's the American dream, and it might be the smartest brand he has ever created. Kindness, self-awareness, and the man behind the message. For all the talk of algorithms, platforms, and day trading attention, Gary Vaynerchuk's ultimate formula may be far more human than his tech-savvy persona suggests. Beyond the screaming about lions and the relentless calls to crush it lies a quieter, more introspective philosophy built on a surprising foundation. Kindness, empathy, and radical self-awareness. It's an element of his brand that has become more pronounced over the years, not as a contradiction to the hustle, but as the engine that makes it sustainable. He's the first to admit his own evolution. While he once resisted the label of a motivational speaker, he has since embraced it, recognizing the responsibility that comes with having a voice that millions listen to. This has led to a more nuanced message, one that tempers the raw ambition with a heavy dose of introspection. He frequently preaches the gospel of self-awareness, urging his followers to be brutally honest with themselves about their strengths and weaknesses. In his view, you can't win the game if you're playing on the wrong field. This isn't just about business strategy, it's about life. He advises people to stop trying to fix their flaws and instead pour all their energy into the things they are uniquely good at, a message that resonates in a world obsessed with self-improvement. This philosophy also reframes the concept of hustle. While his name is synonymous with a relentless work ethic, he is equally passionate about the power of patience. He often distinguishes between being patient and being lazy, arguing that you can be incredibly hungry and ambitious while still giving your goals the time they need to mature. He encourages young people, especially those between the ages of 22 and 30, to take big risks and not be afraid to fail, seeing this period of life as a time of minimal responsibilities and maximum opportunity. The hustle myth. If there's one word synonymous with Gary Vee, it's hustle. For years, his message was a simple, brutal mantra for success. Work harder than everyone else. This gospel of the grind became a cultural phenomenon, especially among young people looking for a way to get ahead. But eventually, a backlash started to build. Experts began to call hustle culture a public health crisis, linking it to burnout, anxiety, and chronic stress.
All right, so Crushing It is the new book that's doing so well. You better grab it before it's sold out. Social media and marketing guru Gary Vaynerchuk has this great book. It's a must-read for any of us who are working or for those of us who have ideas on maybe starting up a new business.
That's right. It's called Crushing It.
Critics also pointed out that Gary's from nothing story wasn't entirely true. He inherited a stable family business, a launching pad that most of his followers could only dream of. His advice, while inspiring, was often seen as high on energy but low on substance. But as the culture began to question the hustle, something interesting happened. The prophet of the grind started to change his sermon. The modern Gary Vee talks less about crushing it and more about kindness, empathy, and self-awareness. Was it a genuine personal evolution or a brilliant strategic pivot to stay relevant? The answer is probably a bit of both. The ultimate day trader of attention was now trading in cultural relevance itself, adapting his message to meet the moment. So who is Gary Vaynerchuk? He's a master marketer who understood the power of personality and the internet before almost anyone. His track record is undeniable. He's also the face of the hustle myth, a philosophy that for many has become a recipe for disappointment. He sells a dream of radical success in a world where that's not always possible. His story forces us to ask a fundamental question. What is the true price of ambition? And in our endless quest to crush it, what are we at risk of crushing in ourselves? Personally, I'd rather follow someone like Gary than people who aren't walking the walk.